But anyhow, doing this is kind of a separate part of the main video, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, I want to talk a few minutes here on my experiences with what we like to call Bigfoot. And again, I do want to caution you by stating that we have no proof of this creature's existence. For all we know, he's pure folklore, has no truth to it whatsoever. We don't know for sure one way or the other, and likely it does turn out to be pure folklore, where we're never going to know for sure. So we get to the point. Okay. At any rate, I just edited the ordeal of me adjusting my snowshoes out of the video. Hopefully you can hear this. I don't know how good the volume is, but yeah. Get a little closer here. And like I said, we really have no proof that this Bigfoot creature exists. We don't know what he is. We don't know who he is. We don't know if it's human. We don't know if it's animal. This video up has a sort of a complete history of why I believe in this thing, if you want to call it that. Again, no proof, just a common belief. And but we'll go back just almost a decade and a half now, to the year 2000. It was in about October time frame, and I was driving along a road. I'm not going to say where exactly all these locations took place, because I don't want them to become overrun by people saying, hey, he saw one there, there must be one there. But in the evening of one October day, the dusk was setting in. And again, most of the sightings that I've seen has been either in the dusk or in the dawn. So I think that whatever this is, it's kind of what they call a bimodal crepuscular creature, who's most active during the dusk and the dawn hours. Some of them are just active in the dusk, some are just in the morning. But I've seen evidence of this creature's movement, both extremes of the day. And other people have seen him through the day and through the night. So he's not strictly diurnal or nocturnal in nature, a little bit of both. But at any rate, it's coming along this roadway. It had been recently done, repaved. It was a portion of highway where the state was experimenting with a new type of fill for drainage and runoff control. And so it was a rather wide stretch on either side of the highway that were covered with stone. Most of them were kind of like bowling ball size, that sort of range. But as I came around the bend, I saw what I first thought was a moose heading into the brush. All I could see was this dark, huge shape, and I slowed down to look at it because I like to look at moose. And all of a sudden, up from the backside, a hand came up. It went like that, pushed the brush away. Moose don't have hind arms. They don't do that. Was it a Bigfoot? I really couldn't say. At that point in time, I really didn't know much about him. But you know, I did see something that night. It was really weird. Could have been a really huge human. There's a possibility of who it may have been. Some of you that are familiar with what's going on in the state of Maine might know what I'm alluding to here, but again, I don't want to give away this location, so I'm not going to go into details on that. But that was my first, what I consider to be a bona fide sighting. And again, that was in about October-ish of, late October of 2000 or so. Now, a few years went by. I didn't pay it much attention, but I did, you know, when I was driving around in the evening with what is now my ex-wife. She didn't see it. She was sound asleep at the time. But again, you know, I drove around, and I kept my eyes peeled to the side of the road after that when we were driving around in the nighttime. The evening and the early dawn hours, going to look for property and go on jobs and things like that. Kept a real close eye. And I think before I get into the next segment here, I got to change my battery, so I'll be right back. Anyhow, that evening sighting was my first experience. And as I said, I would look on the sides of the roads as I was driving down the highways during the evening hours. About 5 years later, I heard, or actually I read in one of the local newspapers about a sighting that two guys were driving along the road in Poland, Maine, and they saw a large gorilla-like furry creature cross the roadway in front of them. And this was just a few miles from where I lived, and a few days before I read that, I had heard some commotion at night. I lived on a dead-end road, and there was a community dumpster at the end of that dead-end road. And I heard some commotion, and I put it off as somebody dumping garbage. When I got up in the morning, there was trash strewn all over the place, and I went over. And I could see what I, you know, pawned off as bear tracks at the time. You know, I didn't think much about it, but, you know, I kept my eyes peeled for, you know, possible bear sign. And picked up the trash and all that, and went on my way. A couple of nights later, while I was standing at the kitchen sink doing dishes, you know, I get this really strange feeling that something was watching me from the woods. Couldn't really tell what it was. Didn't know for sure whether there was anything there. It was just a feeling I got. And that was pretty much it for then. Again, you know, I kept watching the sides of the roads, you know, thinking, you know, you know, when I read that article, I knew right then and there that what I had seen in 2000 was not a figment of my imagination. There was something actually there, but still don't know what it is, but there is something there. So a few years went by, and I got sort of lost track of, or interest of looking for things. I got busy with other things and, you know, dealing with problems and all that. And I had occasion to be forced to walk from my house up in Rumford, which I no longer have, down Route 108 through Peru. And you know, there wasn't any traffic, so I actually had to hoof it. There's a portion where the roadway travels alongside a set of railroad tracks, and I could hear something walking down on the other end of the side of the railroad tracks, down the bank, and I could hear it crunch in the snow for about every 2 of my footsteps. So whatever it was making a pretty long stride. Again, really don't have any idea what it was. It was, I don't know, it was probably like 40 or 50 feet from the looks of it down over the bank, and I couldn't see anything. It was pitch dark, and it was December, I mean January, so there was a lot of snow, so it was cold. But that re-piqued my interest, and that's when I started really delving into this mystery. And I did find that where that was about 3 miles from where a truck driver had seen a Bigfoot cross the road in Peru. So, you know, when I found that out, that really got my juices flowing, and I started looking into the stories behind this creature and the folklore involving, what I've come to find out is stretches back a few thousand years of there in almost every culture being some sort of a hairy beast in the woods that looked like man. A lot of different cultures, and people call it different things throughout the years. It's in the old days, they were known as trolls and goblins. They're also referred to as werewolves in the eastern France and German areas. And through that, they weren't considered, they're kind of human-like, but they weren't really gorilla-like, because back in those days, nobody knew what a gorilla was. Hanno, back during the Golden Ages, talks about a tribe of hairy men from the Carthaginian writings that was done about him, and they were considered to be people. I think right now, and I think it's probably pretty well said, that what he actually saw were the troglodytes, or the girlini animals from that region that he was traveling through. Quite well known today. But at any rate, along about the mid-1800s, latter 1800s, this hairy man of the woods began to be called an ape man, or mountain apes, because it was a new term. They had been rediscovered or put forth to the world as being a fact, and everybody was becoming familiar with that term. So nobody talked about the hairy man of the woods. They talked about the ape of the woods, or the gorilla of the woods, or man-like gorilla, or man-ape. The range of names goes on and on and on. So, the history of this phenomenon stretches back quite a long time. And again, so we'll fast forward it to through my folklore. All that. And I started to get reinterested and reconnected to my photography and videography hobby that I used to have years and years ago. And I also finally had opportunities to get back into the woods where I hadn't been for 20-some years. And I was looking for fiddleheads. This was April 3 years ago. And I came across a pile of mollusk shells, freshwater mollusk shells, along the river that I'm standing beside now. And this was a few miles downstream. And beside it there was a large print, looked like a footprint that was about 15 inches long and about 7 or 8 inches wide across the balls of the toes. And the toes were spread apart, so it was clearly, a 5-digit footprint. And again, I've been coming in these woods for 3 or 4 years now, and I've never once seen any bear track signs, and that didn't look like a bear track to me. I've seen bears in the woods, I've come across them, I've seen them running along the side of the roads. This thing that I saw didn't look back in 2000, didn't look anything like a bear, way too big. Unless it was like a ballerina bear that was standing on its toes to try and make itself as high as it could, but that would have been one huge bear, probably weighing 600 pounds. So I kind of doubt that's what it was. Anyhow, get back to 3 years ago. So I started looking around, and I found some trackways where there were some definite footprint type scuffs in the dirt that were centered about 54 inches apart in a pretty much straight line. First thought was that they were bird wallows, but a bird wallow is not going to make that many wallows that evenly spaced apart over several steps. It was about 7 or 8 steps, which encompassed a good many feet. But that one of my first videos that I've done, you can look back through them to see that. And over the years, a couple of years, I've come to find more and more sign in this area. Last year, pretty much the culmination of it, where I finally figured out when and what days, within a few days, whatever this was coming down here. And one evening, And you can look back through into my tree peeker video, you'll see some video where I took facing up a hill with the sun setting. There was some kind of an animal that was pretty tall that seemed to be peeking at me between two trees. And again, we're going to be doing a recreation of that later on this summer. So, and again, like I said, if you're interested in you know, getting up on my team, join the main Bigfoot research group on Yahoo groups, and let me know that you're interested, and we'll go from there. I'm going to keep it to a pretty select group of Mainers, so be prepared for possible rejection. I've already got a couple of 3 people that I'm interested in having to tag along, but we'll see what happens. At any rate, this past fall, again, and I'm going to show you some, go back to a couple of clips here that I took earlier on this hike that explains where I heard some shuffling in the woods. It sounded like it was pretty heavy or large creature. And I came where I could peer through some of the brush, and it looked like something was looking at me from the other side of a downed tree. And I walked down to go around the brush. It was too thick to walk straight through. And as I got to the other end, I could see it more clearly, but it wasn't really, I couldn't really tell what it was. And whatever it was, it took off uphill, across the hill. It was huge, and it ran a heck of a lot faster than anything I've seen run, except for maybe a deer, but it was a lot bigger than the deer that lived down here. Probably the biggest deer I've seen in this area. Maybe 200 pounds. Most of them are about the 150, 180 pound frame. I haven't seen any bucks down here, all does and yearlings, so don't know where the does are kept. But anyhow, that's the culmination of my experiences with Bigfooting. I tend to pretty much concentrate on a lot of the folklore behind it and things like that. So in my videos you'll see a lot of references to that, and I've found, unfortunately, that a lot of the stories that a lot of people accept as gospel truth when it comes to Bigfoot are nothing but hoaxes. Unfortunately, all the work I've done, all the work other people have done, I take Matt Moneymaker, for instance, of finding Bigfoot and BFRO fame. He claims that he's been hunting for Bigfoot for over 25 years. He hasn't caught one yet. And he hasn't found definitive proof, so, you know, is there a Bigfoot? I don't really know. There's something out there, I know that, and, you know, you can't convince me that there isn't anything there. There's something there, but I don't know what it is, and one of these days I intend to, if I live long enough, try to get to the bottom of it. But again, it's just a kind of a summary of my past experiences with Bigfoot, and we'll go into that little clip of where I describe what I saw running over the hill, and we'll go from there.